curious minds of the interwebs? I'm Alexa, the resident ookie spooky girly, and today we're diving back into alien history and what ifs. I swear the more I learn about alien tech, the more I believe, so welcome to the top 5 lost Anunnaki technologies that could change everything. Number 5, anti-gravity and flight. So it's often suggested that the Anunnaki possessed the technology to fly, either within our atmosphere or between planets. Ancient depictions of winged gods or flying discs get cited as evidence, which led to support the modern-day UFO theories and beliefs. Depictions of modern craft found in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs have been hailed as proof of an advanced alien civilization visiting our ancestors, which is believed to be the Anunnaki. For folks like us, hieroglyphs appearing to resemble planes and helicopters in artwork done thousands of years ago have been hailed as unequivocal proof that the ancient Egyptians were visited by the aliens, with many supporters of the theory saying if the ancient civilization was putting the helicopters and modern spacecraft in their artwork, then they must have seen them, or at least observed images of them. Makes sense to me. The helicopter hieroglyphs is a name given to part of an Egyptian hieroglyph carving from the temple of Seti I at Abydos. They've been interpreted as an out-of-place artifact depicting a helicopter, as well as other examples of modern technology. Now, like I said before, the initial carving was made during the reign of Seti I and translates to "He who repulses the 9 enemies of Egypt." It was later filled in with plaster and recarved during the reign of Ramesses II with the title "He who protects Egypt and overthrows the foreign countries." Over time, the plaster has eroded away, leaving both inscriptions partially visible and creating a palimpsest-like effect of overlapping hieroglyphs. As with all dates in ancient Egypt, the actual dates of Seti's reign are unclear, and various historians propose different dates, with 1294 BC to 1279 BC and 1290 BC to 1279 BC being the most commonly used by scholars today. The 3,000-year-old hieroglyphs found in Seti I's temple in Abydos, Egypt are said to depict a helicopter, a plane, and futuristic aircrafts amongst the usual insects, symbols, and snakes. So one popular theory, known as the Ancient Aliens Theory, is that the advanced race who brought details of futuristic technology to the Egyptians were visitors from a far-flung, highly advanced planet, visiting to share their knowledge with the primitive communities on Earth. The beliefs claim that these extraterrestrials were the ones behind the development of the pyramids, Stonehenge, and other world-famous monuments. So Steve Mera is a UFOologist who tours the country giving talks on the research he conducts. And at UFO conferences, he produces the helicopter hieroglyphs as part of the debate. During one talk in Warminster, Wiltshire, he pointed out that the helicopter, describing how it has what it looks like to be a rotor blade and a rudder, also possibly a wing. This technology could have very well directly led to what has become the modern-day human helicopter, and who knows what else. Oh, I promise I didn't forget about anti-gravity. I just wanted to start with the strongest part of my argument. Theories argue that the Anunnaki possessed the technology to manipulate gravity, which when you think about what that could have done for today's society is just wild. Imagine being able to just float everywhere or suspend gravity to help relieve strain on body parts. A dream. I always say that if I could have any superpower, I would like to be able to teleport for practicality purposes. What superpower would you want? Let me know in the comments. Number 4, advanced genetic engineering. Some believe the Anunnaki manipulated early human genetics either to create us as we are today or to modify our ancestors for various purposes. Now, there are many theories about how the world and humanity as we know it came to be, so what's wrong with one more? Sure, it might be a lesser known one, but let's review what we have to compare it against. Starting with the Bible, the theory that I learned from birth, where the opening chapters of the book of Genesis explain that Adam and Eve were the first man and first woman. Adam's name appears first in Genesis 1 with a collective sense as mankind. Now, in these chapters, God fashions a man from earth, breathes life into his nostrils, and makes him a caretaker over creation. God next creates for the man a helper, corresponding to him from his side or rib, and she is called woman because she is formed from man. The man receives her with joy, and the reader is told that from this moment, a man will leave his parents to cling to a woman, the two becoming one flesh. The first man and woman are in God's Garden of Eden, where all creation is vegetarian and there's no violence. They're permitted to eat the fruits of all the trees except for one, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The woman is tempted by a talking serpent to eat the forbidden fruit and gives some to the man, who eats also. God curses all three. The man to a lifetime of hard labor followed by death, the woman to the pain of birth and to subordination to her husband, and the serpent to go on his belly and suffer the enmity of both man and woman. God then clothes the nakedness of the man and woman, who have become godlike in knowing good and evil, then banishes them from the garden lest they eat the fruit of a second tree, the tree of life, and live forever. I'm forever cursing God for the pain of birth and periods because it's ridiculous. The other major theory is that of the Big Bang. I think the easiest way to explain is that the universe as we know it started with an infinitely hot and dense single point that inflated and stretched, first at unimaginable speeds and then at a more measurable rate over the next 13.7 billion years to the still expanding cosmos that we know today. But once again, we're assuming that somehow one random singular point formed the perfect formula for living people as we know it today. Oh, before I forget the mention of genetic engineering, we're getting closer and closer to that every day, by the way. In December of last year, a new conceptual facility named Ectolife made some major waves by advertising itself as the world's first artificial womb facility, offering a way for parents to produce customized spawn. Yeah, no, this ain't The Sims, this is reality. The facility would run on renewable energy and plans to house 75 labs, each equipped with up to 400 growth pods or artificial wombs, which are designed to provide the same environment that is present inside a mother's womb. Parents will be able to keep track of their spawn's growth and development through a screen on the pods that showcase real-time data, and that data will also be available to monitor through an app, so pretty convenient. The artificial intelligence-based system can be used to monitor the physical features of the baby and will report any potential genetic abnormalities. And during the time of delivery, the little one can be removed from the pod with the push of a button. So the creator believes that the artificial womb facilities could become a reality in 10 years or so if ethical restrictions are removed, claiming that every feature mentioned in the concept is 100% science-based and has already been achieved by scientists and engineers. And hey, if that ain't good enough for any of the parents out there, he's also promising an elite package that would allow people to genetically engineer the embryo before implanting it into the artificial womb, which that's starting to get a little too sci-fi horror for my liking. Parents will be able to select their baby's level of intelligence, height, hair, eye color, physical strength, and skin tone. Oh, and it will somehow also let parents fix any inherited genetic diseases. And as someone with ADHD, I'd like to know the definition of that, thanks. To think that we could have been there sooner with alien tech though is just mind-boggling. Number 3, advanced medical technologies. So kind of a follow-up to my last point. Based on the stories of longevity, such as the extended lifespans of biblical figures and legends of healing abilities, some suggest the Anunnaki possessed advanced medical knowledge or tech. For starters, Methuselah is the oldest person in the Bible, having passed away at the age of 969 years old. He is mentioned in the book of Genesis as the son of Enoch, the father of Lamech, and the grandfather of Noah. His story in the Bible is significant, as he is a part of the genealogy that links Adam to Noah, if your belief in the creation of the world falls in line with the Adam and Eve story. Due to his old age, Methuselah has become part of popular culture, and his name is typically used when referring to the advanced age of people or things. Now, Jared is the second oldest man in the Bible, and is a 6th generation descendant of Adam and Eve, and lived to be 962. Noah is one of the most well-known biblical figures, as his story is told in Bible's Genesis's flood narrative. Most of us are probably familiar with the basics of the story of Noah's Ark, which says that God flooded the earth to wash away mankind's misdeeds and rebuilt the world with the animals and Noah and his family aboard the ark. Well, he also lived to be over 900 years old. The belief that the Anunnaki had tech that was able to extend life, but it left when they did, makes a lot more sense through that lens when you consider that it's rare that anyone these days makes it to like over 100. Number 2, advanced metal and material manipulation. The theory that gold was of significant importance to the Anunnaki, perhaps for its alleged monoatomic properties or its use in advanced technologies, is prevalent in some circles. Author Michael Cremo has researched the history of archaeology for 40+ years, documenting findings that have been excluded from mainstream academic archaeology. Findings that would disrupt the widely accepted story of human origins. Along with authors Zakaria Sitchin, Eric von Daniken, author and researcher Michael Tellinger, and several others make compelling arguments that the Anunnaki were in fact off-world beings posing as gods. This theory asserts that these sky gods genetically engineered the human race as a slave species, which may account for weak links in the evolutionary story and the variations that I mentioned earlier. These theories gave birth to the ancient astronaut hypothesis, asserting that off-world beings have been posing as gods to influence human affairs for millennia, which explains the presence in the hieroglyphs. Many believe that the Anunnaki extracted massive amounts of gold using human labor, as this is derived from multiple discoveries of ancient mining tunnels in South Africa, as well as relics and links to the Sumerians. No one knows why they wanted gold, and no one knows how much was taken. And it's believed the Anunnaki introduced the concepts of money, finance, and debt to human societies, which this could explain the evolution of mining into the gold rush era, with gold being equivalent to godliness and power. And nowadays, I find folks tend to forget just how dominant gold as a resource and how powerful gold mining can be to an economy. Granted, as a gal who grew up in a town where almost the entire economy relies on the success of gold mines, I'll never forget. My dad would disinherit me if I did. Crazy to think how alien tech could help make the mine more productive. Number 1, advanced sound and resonance technologies. Some theories suggest that the Anunnaki used sound as a building tool, especially when it came to construction of massive structures like the pyramids. For reference, in the heart of the city of El Giza stands the Giza Pyramid Complex, also known as the Necropolis. This architectural marvel contains 3 pyramids: the Pyramid of Khafre, the Pyramid of Menkaure, and of course, the Great Pyramid of Giza. How could you forget? Even though each one was created for a different pharaoh, many historians are convinced that their collective design is cohesive and intentional, as the arrangement of these structures is possibly a representation of the Orion constellation. The complex's crown jewel, though, is the Great Pyramid. Most believe that it was erected under the watchful eye of the pharaoh Khufu to be a tomb where the king would complete his transformation into a god in the afterlife. Standing around 146.7 meters high and stretching 234.4 meters wide, it looms above everything around it. It was assembled from 2.5 million alien stone blocks, some of which came from over 500 miles away, which is particularly amazing when you consider that they didn't have the use of wheels at the time, and construction only took 20 years. Whoever designed and built the pyramids had incredibly detailed knowledge and architectural skill. When completed, the pyramid towered over the city, and its corners aligned almost exactly with the points of a compass. In general, Egyptians often oriented structures to true north pretty precisely, which is kind of suspicious. But, they probably used stars such as Polaris to orient their work, and the Great Pyramid is no exception. But the origins and composition of the Great Pyramid have long confounded scholars. How did engineers manage to achieve the seemingly impossible feats that building these masterpieces would require? And the truth is, no one knows. Some folks believe that construction workers may have used large ramps to transport the stones, but that theory has been very much disproven, as there is little archaeological evidence to support the claim. So theories arguing that aliens, specifically the Anunnaki, must have constructed the pyramid. It's true, it would have been difficult for humans to build the pyramids, and there's, like I said, very little historical evidence of how they were built. So citing that, as well as the architectural and scientific questions that surround the pyramids as a whole, many folks, including me, have proposed that aliens came to Earth in ancient times and helped kickstart civilizations. According to these theories, the aliens were instrumental in helping ancient Egyptians build their masterpieces. Believers like us argue that in order to design the pyramids as they are, one would need a bird's eye view. The kind that can be provided from, say, a flying saucer or somebody hovering in midair. They also believe that in order to create an object that obeys the so-called golden ratio, a mathematical relationship based on the special number phi, the Egyptians would have needed help from outside sources. It's also believed that this Anunnaki tech, whatever it was also used to help erect Stonehenge, so just imagine how it could have transformed modern architecture. Honestly, I find a lot of today's building designs to be so bland. I much prefer Neo-Gothic or Art Deco styles. And that brings us to the end of our time, and it's crazy to think about all of the what-ifs in the world. If you enjoy the theories I've discussed today, could you help us out by giving this video a like, subscribing if you aren't already, hit the bell for more alien chatter from us here at Top 5 Scary Videos, and I'll see y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.